The Concordat Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive station where 47 different species gathered to maintain peace. For 500 years, the galaxy had known no major wars. Representatives from across known space congratulated themselves on this achievement during their monthly assembly. Ambassador Varix, a tall crystalline being from the Lumina Collective, stood before the council. "Another year of prosperity," he announced, his voice echoing through translation devices. "Another year without conflict." The human representative, Director Sarah Chen from Earth, smiled politely. Humanity had joined the Concordat only 80 years ago. They were still considered newcomers, useful for their adaptability, but unremarkable compared to older civilizations with exotic technologies and ancient wisdom. Far from the gleaming council chamber, a small science vessel named the Wayfinder drifted through a region called the Outer Veil. This area of space was marked in red on every star chart. Radiation storms, gravitational anomalies, and unstable stars made it a graveyard for ships. No one settled here. No one even explored here anymore. Captain Jorath, a four-armed sentinel with dark blue skin, reviewed sensor data with growing confusion. "Communications Officer Tella, are you certain about this signal?" Tella, a young human technician, nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, Captain. It's definitely a distress beacon. Old design, but the signature is unmistakable. It's human." Jorath's main eyes widened. "Human? Out here? Run the signature through the database." Minutes passed. Then Taylor gasped. Captain, it matches a colony ship called New Sparta. According to records, it departed Earth 300 years ago with 50,000 colonists. It was declared lost with all hands when it never reached its destination." 300 years, Jorath muttered. He knew what everyone knew. Humans couldn't survive 300 years in the Outer Veil. Nothing could. "We should investigate. Send a message to Concordat Command." 2 weeks later, a full delegation arrived at the coordinates. 5 ships carrying diplomats from a dozen species, including 3 from Earth. They expected to find wreckage, perhaps some artifacts to return to human museums. Instead, their sensors showed a planet. Krios. Partimos. It orbited so close to its red dwarf star that one side always faced the sun while the other remained in eternal darkness. The light side burned at temperatures that could melt lead. The dark side was frozen solid, cold enough to freeze atmosphere into snow. But between these two extremes existed a narrow band, a twilight zone where temperatures allowed liquid water. "Life signs," reported the science officer aboard the lead ship. "Millions of them, concentrated in the twilight region." The diplomatic vessel descended through Krios-Stein's atmosphere. Below them, cities emerged from the permanent dusk. Enormous structures built from dark metal stretched along the Terminator line, the boundary between day and night. Fusion reactors glowed like artificial suns. Transportation networks connected settlements across thousands of kilometers. The landing pad was immaculate. As the delegation stepped out, they saw humans, but something was different about them. These people stood taller than Earth humans, averaging over 2 meters. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical. Many had visible cybernetic implants, not crude prosthetics, but seamless integrations of technology and flesh. Their eyes held an intensity that made several delegates uncomfortable. A woman approached. She wore simple dark clothing, but she carried herself with absolute authority. Her left arm gleamed with circuitry beneath translucent synthetic skin. A data port behind her ear connected to a thin neural interface. "I am Archon Kayla Thorne," she said. Her voice was calm but cold. "Welcome to New Sparta." Director Chen stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "We thought you were lost, all of you. For 300 years, we believed everyone on New Sparta died. Thorne's expression didn't change. We did not die." "What happened?" asked Ambassador Varix. "Your ship. Our FTL drive failed," Thorne explained, her tone suggesting she was reciting historical fact rather than personal trauma. "We crashed on this world. 90% of our systems were destroyed. 12,000 colonists died in the first month. We sent distress signals for 10 years. No one came. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. So we adapted," Thorne continued. This world tried to kill us. The radiation, the temperature extremes, the lack of resources, everything here was designed to end human life. We refused to accept that fate. Chen looked around at the thriving city. You built all this without help? We had no choice. Evolution takes millions of years. We didn't have millions of years, so we accelerated the process. Genetic modifications, cybernetic enhancements, radical social restructuring. Every child born here is stronger than their parents. We engineered ourselves to survive. A Lumina diplomat spoke up. Your population. Our sensors detected over 200 million individuals. How? For the first time, something like pride flickered in Thorne's eyes. We are efficient. The delegation spent 3 days on Criosa 9. They were treated with courtesy, but maintained at a distance. The Spartans answered questions, but volunteered nothing. They showed their cities, but not their factories. They demonstrated their technology, but not its limits. On the final day, Thorne met with the delegation one last time. We appreciate your concern, she said, but New Sparta requires nothing from the Concordat. We have survived 300 years without you. We will continue to thrive alone. Director Chen tried to argue, but you're human. You're our people. Earth wants to help you, to bring you back. Thorne interrupted, her voice sharp for the first time. We were never part of your civilization, Director. Earth sent us into the void and forgot us. We are not lost children waiting for rescue. We are New Sparta. We are something else now. The delegation departed, confused and unsettled. As their ships left orbit, the science officer aboard the lead vessel reviewed deep sensor data. His face went pale. Ambassador, he whispered to Varix. Look at these readings. The scans showed massive underground installations. Fusion reactors far more powerful than Concordat technology. Shipyards capable of constructing vessels in zero-gravity caverns. Weapons foundries operating at scales that seemed impossible for an isolated colony. Most disturbing were the ships, dozens of them, hidden in orbital stations cloaked by radiation from the star. Warships, each one larger than anything in the Concordat fleet. What have they been building down there? Varix asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Back on Krios 9, Archon Thorne stood in a command center deep beneath the surface. Around her, holographic displays showed the departing Concordat vessels. They saw the shipyards, reported her second-in-command. Thorne nodded. Good. Let them see. Let them wonder. Should we accelerate the timeline? No. Thorne said quietly. The galaxy isn't ready for us yet, but it will be. Soon, she touched a control panel. The display shifted to show a map of the outer veil, and dozens of markers indicating Spartan outposts scattered across systems the Concordat had declared uninhabitable. New Sparta had not been idle for 300 years. They had been preparing. The Concordat Council chamber buzzed with anxious voices. 3 weeks had passed since the delegation returned from Krios is replaced by amazing Ambassador Varix, displayed holographic images of the underground installations. These weapon foundries alone could supply armies we cannot imagine. And those ships, we have no data on their capabilities. A insectoid VIX representative clicked its mandibles nervously. Perhaps we are overreacting. They are isolated humans. What threat could they pose? Director Chen stood, her face troubled. I've reviewed historical records. New Sparta carried the best military minds Earth had. Their commander was General Marcus Thorne, a tactical genius. The people on that ship were selected for resilience, intelligence, and adaptability. That was 300 years ago, said a Sorok delegate, his reptilian features twisted in dismissal. They are primitives now, barely surviving on a death world. Primitives with technology beyond ours, Varix countered. The debate continued for hours. Finally, the council voted. They would invite New Sparta to join the Concordat officially, not as equals, not yet, but as members who needed guidance and integration into civilized society. The message was sent. The response came within minutes. Archon Thorne will attend negotiations personally. She arrives in 7 days. When the 7th day came, alarms screamed across Concordat Station. Unidentified vessels approaching. the station commander announced, trying to keep panic from his voice. 50 ships. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors never detected their approach. On the main view screen, the Spartan fleet emerged from what seemed like empty space. The ships were beautiful and terrifying. Sleek black hulls absorbed light rather than reflecting it. No visible weapons ports, no engine glow, no communication arrays. They moved in perfect formation, silent as ghosts. Each ship was twice the size of standard Concordat cruisers. 50 warships, whispered Chen. She brought 50 warships as an escort. The lead Spartan vessel docked. Archon Thorn walked through the airlock, accompanied by 20 soldiers. Each soldier stood over 2 meters tall, their bodies a seamless blend of human and machine. They wore no visible weapons, but they moved with predatory grace that suggested they needed none. Thorn herself looked exactly as she had on Krios. 9. Calm, cold, utterly in control. The negotiations began in the Grand Chamber. Representatives from 47 species gathered to witness humanity's lost colony returning to civilization. Council leader Xamith, an ancient being whose species had founded the Concordat, spoke first. Archon Thorn, we welcome you. The Concordat wishes to extend membership to New Sparta. We can provide resources, technology, cultural exchange. We decline, Thorn said simply. Silence filled the chamber. Decline? Xamith's voice carried disbelief. You misunderstand. This is a great honor. Membership in the Concordat means... I understand perfectly, Thorn interrupted. You offer us what we do not need. New Sparta has survived 300 years without the Concordat's help. We will continue to thrive alone. Director Chen stood quickly. Archon, please reconsider. You're human. Earth is your homeworld. We can help you rejoin. Thorn's eyes fixed on Chen with an intensity that made the director step back. Earth abandoned us. You sent 50,000 people into the void and forgot we existed. We owe you nothing. But the technology you could gain, began a Lumina representative. Your technology is inferior to ours, Thorn stated matter-of-factly. She touched her wrist device. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing Spartan reactor designs, propulsion systems, weapons technology. Your fusion cores operate at 40% efficiency. Ours achieve 92%. Your FTL drives require jump gates. Our ships create their own transit corridors. Shall I continue? The chamber erupted in outraged voices. Species that had considered themselves technologically superior for centuries confronted the reality that isolated humans had surpassed them. How is this possible? Demanded Xamith. Necessity, Thorn replied. You had 500 years of peace. We had 300 years of survival. Peace makes you comfortable. Survival makes you strong. Over the following days, Concordat intelligence agencies worked frantically. What they discovered terrified them. Spartan scout ships had been observing Concordat space for decades. They had mapped every trade route, cataloged every military installation, analyzed every species' strengths and weaknesses. More shocking, they had established hidden outposts in 15 different star systems, all in regions the Concordat had deemed uninhabitable. They've been watching us, Varix told the council, learning everything about us while we knew nothing about them. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of Concordat space, a crisis erupted. The Sorok Empire and the Vrix Collective had disputed ownership of a mineral-rich asteroid belt for years. Tensions finally exploded into violence. Sorok warships attacked Vrix mining stations. Vrix swarm fleets retaliated. Within hours, both sides had mobilized their full military forces. The Concordat's peacekeeping fleet rushed to intervene, but neither side would back down. War seemed inevitable. Then, a single Spartan frigate appeared in the contested system. It was small, compared to the hundreds of warships facing each other, barely 300 meters long. Both the Sorok commander and the Vrix hive mind ignored it. A message broadcast from the Spartan ship, Thorn's voice clear and cold. Cease hostilities immediately or be removed from this system. The Shorak commander laughed. One small ship dares to threaten us, destroy it. 20 Sorok cruisers opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled space, all converging on the Spartan frigate. The Spartan ship didn't dodge. It didn't raise shields. The weapons simply stopped working before they reached it. deactivated by technology no one understood. What happened next took 14 minutes. The Spartan frigate moved through both fleets like a surgeon with a scalpel. It didn't fire visible weapons. Instead, targeted electromagnetic pulses disabled ship after ship. Navigation systems failed. Weapons powered down. Life support remained active, but every combat system went dark. 27 warships, the pride of two civilizations, became floating metal coffins. Not a single shot destroyed a ship. Not a single person died. They were simply neutralized, made helpless. Then the Spartan frigate vanished, disappearing into whatever stealth technology had hidden it before. Both fleets sat in stunned silence, powerless in the void. The galaxy watched the recordings in horror. One ship had defeated dozens without breaking stealth or expending visible ammunition. 3 days later, Archon Thorn appeared simultaneously on every communication channel in Concordat space. Every screen, every hologram, every data pad showed her face. The Concordat's unbreakable quantum encryption had been bypassed as if it didn't exist. Members of the Concordat, Thorn began, her voice reaching billions across dozens of worlds. For 500 years you have enjoyed peace. You have grown comfortable, complacent. You believe your prosperity will last forever. She paused, her enhanced eyes seeming to stare through the cameras into the soul of every viewer. You are wrong. We have monitored the space beyond your borders. We have seen what you have not. Predators are coming from the deep void. Things that will not negotiate, will not compromise, will not be deterred by your diplomatic protocols. Images appeared alongside her, sensor data showing massive objects moving through uncharted space, heading toward Concordat territory. When they arrive, your peace will end. Your comfortable civilization will burn. And on that day, you will need us. Thorn's expression hardened. Until then, do not interfere with Spartan affairs. Do not attempt to control us. Do not assume you understand us. We are not your lost children. We are not your servants. We are New Sparta, and we answer to no one. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, governments panicked. Military forces went on high alert. The Concordat Council demanded answers, explanations, proof. But the Spartans said nothing more. Their ships returned to the outer veil. Their outposts went silent. It was as if they had never been there. Only the disabled warships remained as evidence. And the terrifying question: if one small Spartan frigate could do this, what could 50 warships do? What could the full might of New Sparta accomplish? Director Chen sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the transmission repeatedly. She noticed something others had missed. In the background of Thorn's broadcast, visible for just a moment, was a tactical display. It showed hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, weapons that had no names in any Concordat database. New Sparta had not been surviving. They had been preparing for war, and now, according to Thorn, the enemy was coming. Chaos consumed the Concordat Council. Some species demanded military action against New Sparta. Others begged for an alliance. The chamber that had known 500 years of peaceful debate now echoed with shouting voices and accusations. Director Chen tried to contact Archon Thorn repeatedly. Every message went unanswered. Earth's government offered technology, resources, even formal apologies for abandoning the colony 3 centuries ago. Dor's response came through encrypted channels, brief and cutting. Earth abandoned us when we needed you. We owe you nothing. Do not contact us again. The rejection stung, but Chen understood. New Sparta had become something beyond Earth's control, perhaps beyond anyone's control. 3 months passed. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for Thorn's predicted predators. Some called her a liar, claiming she had invented threats to manipulate the Concordat. Others prepared quietly, increasing military readiness. Then the sensors on the frontier world of Dalmar 3 detected something impossible. Command, this is Dalmar Station. The transmission came through, the operator's voice shaking. We have multiple contacts emerging from dead space. They're not using jump gates. They're just appearing. The objects were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Organic in appearance, covered in dark chitinous armor, pulsing with sickly bioluminescent light. They moved through space like predators stalking prey. Attempting communication, the Dalmar operator reported. This process, sending standard greeting protocols. The creatures, later named devourers by the survivors, opened massive orifices along their hulls. Smaller organisms poured out by the thousands, each one a living weapon designed for a single purpose: consumption. They fell upon Dalmar, 3 like locusts. The planet's defense fleet engaged immediately. Energy weapons struck devourer swarms, destroying dozens. But for every creature killed, 10 more appeared. Missiles exploded in brilliant fireballs, yet the swarms kept coming. Within 2 hours, Dalmar 3's orbital defenses were overwhelmed. The Devourers descended to the planet's surface. What happened next horrified the galaxy. The Devourers consumed everything: buildings, vehicles, vegetation, soil, water. They ate the planet itself, breaking down matter at the molecular level and absorbing it into their biomass. 12 million colonists screamed as the swarms engulfed cities. The last transmission from Dalmar 3 was a simple plea: help us. Please. They're eating everything. They're eating, then silence. A concordate response fleet arrived 6 hours later. They found nothing. Dalmar 3 was gone, not destroyed, but consumed. Where a thriving world had existed, only a barren rock remained, stripped of atmosphere and life. By the ancients, whispered Admiral Korvax, a veteran Sorrow commander. What kind of monsters are these? The Devourers answered by turning toward the response fleet. The battle was brief and brutal. Devourer bioships proved resistant to energy weapons. Their swarms adapted to different attack patterns within minutes. They didn't just fight, they learned. The response fleet was annihilated. Only 3 ships escaped to carry word of the massacre. Panic spread across Concordat space like wildfire. Governments that had spent 500 years debating trade agreements now faced an enemy that couldn't be negotiated with, couldn't be reasoned with. The Devourers wanted only one thing: to feed. More worlds fell. The frontier colonies of Hesper 7 and New Varos were consumed within days. The Devourers moved with terrible purpose, each attack coordinated and efficient. Civilian evacuation ships became easy prey. The swarms hunted them down, consumed them, grew stronger. The Concordat military mobilized fully for the first time in centuries. Fleets that had rusted in peacetime now rushed to form defensive lines. But their tactics were outdated, their officers inexperienced, their doctrine designed for peacekeeping rather than total war. Battle after battle ended in defeat. Director Chen watched the casualty reports with growing horror. 2 weeks into the invasion, 12 Concordat worlds had fallen. 4 billion people were dead, consumed by an enemy that seemed unstoppable. In desperation, the Council sent a message to New Sparta, not an invitation or a demand, but a plea for help. The reply came from Archon Thorn. "We are monitoring the situation." "Monitoring," roared Zamith in the council chamber. "Billions are dying and they're monitoring?" 2 days later, the Devourers reached Threshold Station, a massive orbital facility housing 20 million civilians. It was also the last defensive position before the Devourers could reach the Concordat core worlds. Admiral Korvax commanded the defense. 300 Concordat warships against 2,000 Devourer bioships. The odds were impossible, but retreat meant condemning billions more to death. "All ships," Korvax broadcast, his voice steady despite the fear in his hearts. "We hold this line. For our families, for our civilizations, we hold." The Devourers attacked in waves, their swarms blotting out the stars. The battle raged for 3 hours. Concordat ships fought with desperate courage, but it wasn't enough. The Devourers adapted to every tactic, learned from every strategy. One by one, ships fell silent, consumed by the endless swarms. Threshold Station itself came under assault. Devourer organisms latched onto the hull, beginning the horrifying process of consumption. Evacuation alarms screamed as 20 million people rushed toward escape pods that couldn't hold them all. Then space itself seemed to tear open. 200 Spartan warships emerged from stealth, appearing as if reality had simply decided they should exist. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of black metal between the Devourers and Threshold Station. Admiral Korvax stared at his sensors in disbelief. New Sparta? They came? The Spartan fleet didn't broadcast warnings or demands. They simply acted. What followed was unlike any battle the Concordat forces had witnessed. The Spartans didn't fight with brute force. They fought with surgical precision. Their ships moved like dancers, never wasting motion, never exposing weakness. Weapons that seemed to bend physics itself struck Devourer bioships, targeting specific organs, specific systems. The Devourers tried to adapt, but the Spartans adapt faster. When the swarms learned to resist energy weapons, the Spartans switched to kinetic bombardment. When the bioships evolved armor against projectiles, the Spartans deployed weapons that attacked at the molecular level. It was 300 years of survival instinct weaponized. Every tactic the Spartans used had been developed fighting against Krios, 9 itself, a planet that had tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways. The Spartans moved as one entity, each ship connected through neural networks, sharing data instantaneously. They anticipated Devourer movements before they happened, countered strategies before they fully formed. In 4 hours, 800 Devourer bioships were destroyed. The remaining swarms, for the first time, retreated. The surviving Concordat forces watched in stunned silence as the Spartan fleet pursued the fleeing Devourers, destroying them systematically, efficiently, mercilessly. When the battle ended, Archon Thorn's face appeared on every ship's view screen. "Concordat forces," she said, her voice carrying absolute authority. "Fall back to secondary positions. We will hold this line. The Devourers will advance no further." Admiral Korvax found his voice. "Archon Thorn, you saved us." "We saved ourselves," Thorn corrected. "The Devourers threaten our territory as much as yours. But understand this, Admiral. We do not fight for the Concordat. We fight for survival. It is what we do best." She paused, and something almost like respect entered her voice. "Your people fought bravely today. Many showed courage. But courage without capability is merely a beautiful death. If you wish to survive what is coming, you will need to become harder, stronger. More like us." "What do you mean, what is coming?" Korvax asked. "This isn't the full force?" Thorn's expression darkened. "This was a scouting force. The main Devourer fleet is still weeks away. What you faced today was merely the beginning." The transmission ended, leaving Korvax staring at empty space where Thorn's image had been. Across the Concordat, military commanders reached the same terrifying conclusion. If this had been just a scouting force, if the real invasion was still coming, then their civilization stood on the edge of extinction. And only New Sparta, the forgotten colony they had dismissed as primitives, possessed the capability to save them. Director Chen received a private message that night. It was from Thorn, only 3 words long. "Things will change." Chen understood. The old Concordat 500 years of soft peace and comfortable diplomacy was dying. What would replace it depended entirely on whether they could survive the coming storm. And survival, the Spartans had proven, required becoming something harder than they had ever imagined. The Spartan fleet didn't just hold defensive lines. They hunted. Across a dozen systems, black warships pursued Devourer scouts with relentless efficiency. When bioships tried to hide in asteroid fields, Spartans flushed them out. When swarms attempted ambushes, Spartans predicted their positions and struck first. The predators had become prey. Within the Concord Military Command, everything changed overnight. Archon Thorn became the de facto supreme commander of all defensive forces. No vote was taken, no ceremony held. It simply happened because everyone recognized the truth. Thorn understood war in ways they never could. She established headquarters on Threshold Station, converting entire sections into tactical command centers. Spartan officers arrived to train Concordat forces in what they called Krios Doctrine, the brutal survival tactics developed over 300 years. Admiral Korvax attended the first training session. A Spartan instructor, a woman named Commander Reese, with cybernetic eyes that glowed faintly blue, addressed the assembled officers. "You have spent 5 centuries playing at peace," Reese said bluntly. You have forgotten how to truly fight. Your tactics prioritize minimizing casualties over achieving victory. Against the Devourers, that thinking will kill you. She displayed holographic battle scenarios. When faced with superior numbers, you retreat to preserve forces. Wrong. When outnumbered, you strike harder, faster, targeting command organisms to create chaos. You turn their numbers into a weakness. Avrick's commander clicked nervously. But the cost in lives is less than the cost of defeat, Reese interrupted. The Devourers show no mercy. They take no prisoners. Every second you hesitate, they grow stronger by consuming your hesitation. You must become as ruthless as they are, or you will be consumed. The training was harsh. Spartan methods shocked many species. Civilian populations near battle zones were conscripted for logistics and support. Retreating forces employed scorched earth tactics, destroying resources to deny them to the Devourers. Captured bioships were dissected while still alive to extract tactical information. Some Concordat species protested these methods as barbaric. Others, watching their worlds burn, accepted them as necessary. Director Chen walked through Threshold Station's corridors, observing the transformation. Concordat soldiers trained alongside Spartans, learning to move with precision, to think 3 steps ahead, to never show weakness. The change was visible. These weren't the same peacekeepers from months ago. She found Thorn in the main command center, studying holographic projections of Devourer fleet movements. It's working, Chen admitted quietly. Your training. Our casualties have dropped 40% in 2 weeks. Thorn didn't look away from the displays. They're learning. Good. They'll need every lesson when the main fleet arrives. How long do we have? 3 weeks. Maybe 4. Thorn finally turned to face Chen. But there's a problem. Not all Concordat species are committed to this fight. Chen's stomach tightened. What do you mean? My intelligence network has intercepted communications. 7 Concordat governments are negotiating a separate peace with the Devourers. That's impossible. The Devourers don't negotiate. They're offering New Sparta as a sacrifice, Thorn continued, her voice deadly calm. They plan to reveal our positions, our fleet strength, everything. They believe if they give the Devourers what they want, their own world will be spared. Chen felt sick. Who? Which governments? Thorn listed them, including 2 species Chen had considered allies. They planned to transmit the data in 72 hours during the next coordinated offensive. We have to stop them. Arrest the conspirators. No, Thorn said firmly, we use them. Over the next 3 days, Thorn set her trap. She fed false intelligence to the conspirators through carefully monitored channels, fake fleet positions, invented weaknesses in Spartan defenses, fabricated data about New Sparta's home system. The conspirators transmitted everything to the Devourers, believing they were purchasing their survival. The Devourer command responded exactly as Thorn predicted. The main fleet, 3,000 bioships that had been approaching Concordat core worlds, changed course. They redirected toward Krios, 9, believing they could destroy New Sparta's home base and eliminate the only real threat to their invasion. They're coming, Thorn announced to her assembled commanders. Every Devourer ship heading straight for us. We make our stand at Krios. 9. Admiral Korvax objected. Archon, that's your homeworld. If the battle goes wrong, it won't go wrong, Thorn stated. Krios, 9 has been trying to kill us for 300 years. Now we use it to kill them. The Spartan fleet withdrew from all positions, converging on their home system. The Concordat forces followed, confused but trusting Thorn's strategy. The Devourers arrived at Kiros, 9 in massive force. 3,000 bioships emerged from transit corridors, swarms darkening space itself. What they found waiting was worse than any nightmare. Krios, 9's hostile environment became a weapon. The Spartans had spent centuries learning to manipulate their deadly world. Now they unleashed that knowledge. Massive gravity generators created artificial wells that pulled Devourer ships toward the planet's sun. The star's radiation, concentrated and redirected by orbital mirrors, burned through bioship armor. Temperature extremes from the tidally locked planet were weaponized. Ships lured to the light side melted, while those driven to the dark side froze solid. The Spartans fought with home advantage, knowing every gravitational anomaly, every radiation pocket, every way to turn Krios Nine's deadliness against their enemies. The battle raged for 3 days. Space around Krios Nine became a graveyard of consumed bioships and Spartan wrecks. Both sides fought with absolute commitment. The Devourers for survival, the Spartans for their home. On the 3rd day, Spartan commandos boarded the largest bioship, the Queen Mind, that coordinated all Devourer forces. In brutal close combat, they fought through organic corridors and living walls. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The Queen Mind was massive, pulsing with bioluminescent intelligence. It tried to communicate, offering visions of shared consumption, of humanity joining the Devourers in their endless feast. Commander Reese, leading the assault team, spoke a single word: no. They captured the Queen Mind alive, severing its connections to the fleet. Without coordination, the remaining Devourer ships descended into chaos. The Spartan fleet systematically destroyed them all. When the battle ended, Krios was filled with debris. The Spartans had lost 60 ships and 30,000 soldiers. But the Devourer invasion was broken. The Concordat Council convened in emergency session. The conspirators had been exposed, their betrayal known to all. Some demanded their execution. Others called for imprisonment. Archon Thorn walked into the chamber, her armor still scorched from battle. She carried no weapons, but her presence commanded absolute attention. The war is over, she announced. The Devourers are defeated. Their Queen Mind is in our custody. Any remaining scouts will flee into deep space. Relief swept through the chamber, but Thorn wasn't finished. The old Concordat is also finished. 500 years of soft peace produced a civilization that couldn't defend itself. That era is done. Zamith rose shakily. What are you proposing, Archon? A new treaty, Thorn said. New Sparta will serve as the Concordat's military arm, operating with complete autonomy. We will defend against external threats, train your forces, and maintain security. And in exchange, asked a Lumina representative, freedom to operate as we see fit. No interference in Spartan internal affairs, observation posts on key worlds to monitor threats, and acknowledgement that military authority in times of crisis belongs to New Sparta. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species accepted gratefully, understanding they owed their survival to the Spartans. Others resisted, bitter at being rescued by humans they had considered primitive. Director Chen watched Earth's representatives squirm. They tried to speak, to claim kinship with New Sparta, to suggest Earth should have special status. Thorn silenced them with a look. Earth has no special relationship with New Sparta, she stated publicly. You abandoned us 3 centuries ago. We are not your lost children. We are not your redemption story. We are what you could never have become, humans who refuse to die. The words cut deeply, but Chen recognized their truth. The new treaty was ratified. Not all species agreed, but enough did. The Concordat would continue, but forever changed. On Krios 9, in schools carved from solid rock, children learned the new history. Teachers told them how Earth had abandoned their ancestors, how 300 years of suffering had forged them into something stronger. A young girl raised her hand. Teacher, are we still human? The instructor, a veteran of the Devourer War with cybernetic limbs and enhanced neural processing, smiled. We are what humans become when they refuse to die, she answered. We are New Sparta, and the galaxy will never forget us. Across Concordat space, the black ships of New Sparta patrolled the void. In the darkness beyond known stars, other threats stirred and watched. But they had seen what happened to the Devourers. They had learned to fear the colony that survived. The galaxy had a new order now, built not on peace, but on strength. And at its heart stood the descendants of 50,000 forgotten colonists who had turned abandonment into power. New Sparta endured, and the universe trembled.